You have to understand that when I was on the catamaran, I was the only woman in a one-piece bathing suit. After all, I was 45, and I believed in being modest. Actually, the bathing suit that I wore at that time was even more modest than this because I had a little skirt going right across the front. Do you remember wearing those? Absolutely. Absolutely. Didn't have to go to parochial school to learn how to dress modestly in a bathing suit. Well, I was sitting there in my one-piece suit, leaning against the ropes, and the catamaran took off, and we sailed out into the beautiful Atlantic from Key West, heading to this special reef where we were going to look for wonderful coral. By now, Barbie and Ken were circulating amongst all the bronzed and beautiful people who were laying down in the catamaran with copper tone all over their already bronzed bodies, bringing each of them a little beer, a little glass of beer, a little glass of ginger ale, a little Coke, whatever it is that they wanted. I chose nothing. I just sat there and waited for this whole thing to be over. But it was just beginning. Because as we moved out, Barbie and Ken gave us instructions on how we were to go snorkeling. First thing that we were told to do is how to put on our flippers. So I did. I thought they added a lot to the attractiveness of the outfit. Then we were given instructions on how to put our face mask on so that we could breathe properly and still see under the water, especially since we were going to visit this wonderful coral reef. So I practiced. Actually, I thought I had it down pretty good. So then the time came when we were to descend the stairs on the catamaran and swim into the water and follow the leader. Barbie and Ken were staying on the catamaran, however, just in case anybody needed to come back early. And out they went, following the leader, just swimming away so beautifully. And finally I decided, okay, I was ready to go. So I wanted to be last. I walked across the catamaran to the steps. I turned around, let myself down the steps and into the water. Once I was in the water, I put my mask on, adjusted it, put my breather into my mouth, and put my face into the water and began to swim out to meet the others who were already quite far ahead of me. I was swimming along a little bit until I really noticed for the first time that the fish in the water were moving. Nobody told me that. I really never did well with things that moved while I was in the midst of it. I thought I was just maybe a little hungry, which is why I was feeling a little funny on the catamaran. But as I was swimming along, I was looking dead center right at those fish, and those little buggers just kept swimming and swimming and moving and moving and moving, and I just couldn't take it anymore. I had to come up for air. I was just so dizzy, I just didn't even know what to do. I turned around to look at the catamaran, and there was Ken, and there was Barbie waving to me. They could see that I was okay, but that I was in some sort of little trouble. I waved back at them, and then I did something I never knew you could do standing up. I began throwing up, right through my whole body, right up through my neck, right through my esophagus, right out my mouth, and right into this little carry-all right here. I was treading water as best as I could, tears streaming down my eyes the whole time. Barbie and Ken were watching me. Every now and then they'd turn their back to me as if they were talking to one another, but I knew what they were doing. I kept treading water, and the whole time I kept vomiting and vomiting over the little catch-all mask, and by now I noticed vomit floats. And so I was surrounded by my own vomit, and then I noticed fishes coming near me, and I thought, I better make it back to the catamaran. And so I tried as fast as I could to paddle, to swim, to do anything back to the catamaran. And when I got there, there was Barbie and Ken with their little towels wrapped around their little bottoms and their little sarong wraps. Well, hi. Having trouble? I'm sure I had vomit all over my mouth, and I had to empty whatever was in the little mask. But I made my way up the steps, and I crossed the catamaran myself back to the ropes. I took hand of the rope, and I leaned over the rope, and I did what anybody who was as sick as I was would do. And you throw up over into the water. And then, of course, that floated, and then more fish came. Well, that went on for quite some while, until Barbie must have had a soft spot for me, because she came over and said, if you go downstairs to throw up, we'd appreciate it if you'd use the can and not throw up all over the floor as other people have done. I just wiped my mouth, said, no problem, honey, no problem. You got it, you got it. And then I leaned over again and let another load out. By now, the bronzed and beautiful-bodied ones were now coming up. And they just came up and they just walked right across the catamaran, and they saw this older woman leaning over the side, throwing up for all that she was worth. Not one person came over to me, and I didn't even care. So they put some more Coppertone all over them, and then they brought out more beer, and they had more party, and all the while I just kept leaning over and leaning over. By now, a whole platoon of fish were following us all the way in. Finally, we arrived back at Key West, and they began to disembark from the catamaran one at a time. I stayed glued, holding on to the rope at the side. When I finally began to descend, I could see my mother sitting on a little bench waiting for me. I could see that she'd been bored. And she said to me, without even checking, that my face was as white as a ghost, "Midgie, Midgie, hurry up," she said. "The bus is just leaving for the tour." "Oh, I don't think so, Mom," I said. "I think I'm just going to sit right here on this little bench. Why don't you go on the bus ride?"